Picture a bricklayer. He drops a brick and it just doesn't fall. That moment will never happen. And that's exactly why it changes everything. I'm Fatih. This channel is about literature, personal essays, philosophy. Today we are asking what poetry actually is, why it still matters, or why we are wrong to think it doesn't. That's what poetry does. So let's go back to where it started. What is poetry? Oral roots. Poetry was once spoken. Long before ink, long before paper, people carried their stories in sound, myth, folklore. All of it took shape in the mouth before it ever touched a page. That doesn't mean poetry was ever a stranger to writing, though. Oral and written tradition tangled together. Each one fed the other. There is a fragment attributed to Sappho, barely a few lines survive, the rest lost to time, where she says in effect that someone somewhere will remember her even long after she's gone. It's a strange thing to sit with, a woman writing almost 2,600 years ago, betting on a stranger's memory, and she won that bet. We're still saying her name. That's oral poetry's real trick. It never belonged to one voice. A community repeated it, reshaped it, passed it on, mouth to mouth, not hand to hand. Words got stuttered, repeated, folded back on themselves. Language wasn't a river flowing downstream, it kept collapsing back into itself. Aristotle's answer. In the Poetics, Aristotle looks at poetry with real curiosity, but also with something close to scientific precision, analytic approach. He asks, what's the essence of this thing? His answer is strange. Poetry's job, he says, isn't to describe what did happen or what happens. It's reveal what could happen, not the actual, the possible. The poet is alchemist. That word, reveal, points somewhere unexpected, toward alchemy. Think of the poet as an alchemist. An alchemist works in uncertainty. He takes raw material and tries to transform it without knowing exactly what will come out the other side. Spinoza has a concept for this kind of striving, conatus. To derive every being has to persist in its own existence, to keep going, to keep expanding. Think of poetry the same way. Language straining against its own limits, just to stay alive. That makes it political, in a sense, a matter of survival, and it makes it risky. Because transformation is never fully under control. Sometimes the alchemist gets burned, so does the poet. Back to the bricklayer. Remember how we opened? A brick falls from a bricklayer's hand and it never lands. That moment will never occur, and that's exactly why it unsettles every habit of thought we have. What matters isn't who dropped the brick. What matters is how we experience it. That's what poetry tries to do. Pull us into an encounter with something that never quite happens, but could. The possible, hanging in midair, refusing to resolve. A hot day. Now imagine sweating through an unbearable hot day. Normally you would say, we are almost burning up. But in a poem, the sentence might collapse into something else. The words fusing together, we're almost burning up. That fused sentence carries the stickiness of a sweating body straight into language itself. Poetry can do that because poetry is sensitive to life, spoken or written. Life is poetry's pulse. So with all this history, all this depth, does poetry still have any charm left today? Or has it really been thrown out with yesterday's shoes? Does poetry still matter today? We live in a world of accelerating cultural and technological change, and this world holds a strange grudge against poetry. It gets dismissed on 4 different grounds. Let's take them one by one. First charge. Poetry is useless. Marx' travel line worth remembering: use value versus exchange value. Use value is the direct benefit something gives you. Exchange value is what it's worth on the market, what it converts into. Does poetry have use value? Debatable, but its exchange value is close to zero. You can easily turn it into a paycheck. And today, a life only counts as worth something if it's functional, if it produces, contributes, converts into output. Anything that doesn't get written off "You are good for nothing" is really the whole ideology in 5 words. Second charge, more ironic. Poetry is worthless because anyone can write it. Here is a strange test case for that idea. Instagram poetry, short, plain language verses, no training required, posted by the millions. Critics dismiss it constantly. That's not real poetry. Anyone could write that. And yet some of it has sold millions of books, built massive followings, made real money. So which is it? If anyone can do it, make something worthless, why does the market disagree so loudly? Baudrillard's read on consumer society helps untangle this. Value doesn't come from need anymore, it comes from scarcity and status. Something abundant, free, accessible to anyone loses cultural prestige automatically. Regardless of what it earns, regardless of what it contributes, the contempt isn't really about quality, it's about accessibility. Third charge. Poetry is a lazy person's hobby, but historically that's not remotely true. 3 ways of living, 3 different verdicts. In ancient Greece, leisure, schole, was a virtue. Philosophy and poetry were produced precisely in the leisure. It was the privilege of the free citizen, not something to be sneered at. In the Middle Ages, time was structured by church bells, by the rhythm of daily prayer. Poetry wasn't excluded from that world. Hymns and mystic verse sat right at the center of monastic life. Then, industrial life changed everything. Time became money. The factory clock carved the day into measurable, sellable pieces. Leisure turned into a luxury, almost an anomaly. Idleness stopped being a virtue, it became nearly a crime. Calling poetry for idlers is really a symptom of that shift, of that separate, a productivity obsession dressed up as common sense. It's for teenagers. And the final charge, the funniest one honestly, that poetry is a product of adolescence or just a tool for flirting. What makes this funny is this assumption buried underneath that the emotional, the bodily, isn't serious, as if grown, rational, productive adults live in one category, passionate, love-struck teenagers live in another, lesser one. But adults' serious business runs on the exact same passions, they just don't admit it out loud. Now, we get to the real point. In symbolic exchange and that, Baudrillard describes something strange. In certain tribal societies, speech, poetic speech especially, serves no purpose at all. It has no economic value. It isn't stored, it isn't saved, and that's exactly why it is valuable, because it belongs to a symbolic exchange, not an exchange of value. Baudrillard points to Saussure's unpublished notes on anagrams. In Latin poetry, a name's letters get scattered across the words, hidden inside the lines, but this hiding doesn't defer the name. It does the opposite. It consumes the name instantly, with no way back. It kills it on the spot. A modern science system endlessly defers meaning, hoards it, chains it to a reference. Poetic speech does the reverse. It burns through meaning immediately. And here's the sharpest part. Modern societies, Baudrillard argues, constantly defer that, medicalize it, hide it away, turn it into an economic endpoint. In symbolic exchange societies, that isn't deferred, it's met directly, exchange. Poetic speech works the same way. It doesn't differ, it doesn't accumulate, it spends itself immediately. Maybe poetry's uselessness is its most radical quality. It reuses. Maybe poetry's uselessness is its most radical quality. It refuses to enter the system of change value. It refuses deferral. Let's go back to that break. It never fell, remember? Its fall wasn't deferred. Deferral assumes the thing will eventually happen. That breaks it entirely outside that logic. It hadn't fallen. It wasn't going to fall. It just hung there, in the middle of falling forever. Poetry does the same thing, like the symbolic speech Baudrillard describes. It doesn't hoard, doesn't defer, doesn't enter the chain of exchange. It spends itself instantly. And that's exactly why it never runs out. Maybe that's why we are so quick to dismiss it. The system we live inside, ancient, medieval, industrial, but especially the one we are living in right now, is built on deferring everything, hoarding everything, converting everything into a return, but it refuses to join that chain. It's useless because it refuses to be useful. Maybe that's not a flaw. Maybe it's the one place left where something still resists. So, what do you think? Is poetry still good for something, or it's valuable precisely because it isn't? Let me know in the comments. And if you're into essays like this, subscribe. There's more coming. See you.